It's been 2 days since these people's relatives, employees of a Canadian mining company, were killed in a remote ambush in Burkina Faso. Government ministers tried to appease them as they waited to identify the dead and understand what happened.
I haven't seen my husband for 2 days. I came here today to see his body, take it and leave. What the ministers are saying here, that doesn't work for me. It won't bring back the dead.
They gathered in the capital Ouagadougou, hundreds of kilometres from the site of the attack in the eastern corner of Burkina Faso, near the border of Benin and Niger. It happened on a public road, 40 kilometres from the Boungou gold mine. The victims were employees and contractors of Semafo Mining Company. To get to work, they travelled in a military convoy. This time there were 5 buses. The convoy struck an explosive device on the road, then was ambushed by unidentified gunmen. In a remote area without cell phone reception, there were no photos or videos of the attack, the third on a Semafo convoy in 15 months.
Il nous faut rester dignes et courageux.
We must remain dignified and courageous. That's why I will engage the defence and security forces to track these terrorists, and I call all of our people to mobilise against the terrorists.
No group has claimed responsibility for the ambush, but ISIL and al-Qaeda have claimed dozens of attacks in the region in recent years. In Burkina Faso, the groups have killed nearly 700 people since 2015 and forced 500,000 from their homes. Attacks multiplied after April this year, when the recently deceased ISIL leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi welcomed new affiliates from Burkina Faso and neighbouring Mali. A joint Sahel security force, French and US forces, have been unable to contain the violence.
If the situation continues, it will really be very hard for us. We are all worried. We don't feel comfortable. We'd really live in fear. This is really a disaster for us.
Semafo says its Boungou mine is secure, but operations are on hold out of respect for the victims. Their relatives now looking for not just respect, but answers and security. Charlotte Bellis, Al Jazeera.
Well, let's get more on the situation in Burkina Faso from Henry Wilkins, a freelance journalist who joins us now by Skype from the capital, Ouagadougou. Henry, what's behind this surge in violence in Burkina Faso?
Well, that's a very good question, actually. A lot of the attacks that are happening in Burkina Faso have not been attributed to armed groups that are operating in the country. The government has a very difficult time working out who is responsible for them, but we do know that jihadist groups are operating in the country, including Islamic State in the Greater Sahara, Ansar al-Islam, but also some of these attacks are being put down to armed bandits who are exploiting a lack of rule of law in particularly the north and the east of the country.
Henry, the President is calling for a national response to this crisis, but they are clearly struggling to contain this violence. What will that response look like?
Again, I mean, that will become clear over the coming weeks and months, but we do have some precedents here. The idea of a popular resistance against the armed groups that are operating in Burkina Faso is an idea that's been growing for some time now. There are groups in militias in the country which have taken control of the rule of law in places where the state is not able to project that. But a lot of these militias have been responsible for human rights abuses, and a lot of people are questioning whether the government is going to be able to control these militias and popular resistance, which it now seems to be supporting and encouraging.
It's not just the national governments who are trying to combat this violence. We understand that France is also deploying more troops to the region. Is that likely to help or hinder efforts to contain this violence? How will that go down with the people in Burkina Faso?
Yeah, so on Monday, the French Defence Minister visited Burkina Faso and announced that they were going to carry out the first major deployment of French troops to Burkina Faso. In terms of the reaction to that from the Burkinabe people, there's a lot of mistrust of French troops arriving in Burkina Faso. A lot of people see it as a throwback to the colonial era. In terms of whether it will actually do anything to stop the violence, I think it's being, certainly by analysts, seen as a band-aid rather than addressing the causes of the violence. So perhaps we will see a reduction, but it's anybody's guess.
Henry Wilkins there joining us from Ouagadougou. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.